I'm going to be reviewing a game that you have definitely heard of, one of the most famous and oldest video game characters ever. Now this isn't going to be a super sparkly review, it's just going to be very simple, very dead. Jeez! Octavius! You need to come with me. What have you done to my wall? I just moved in. No, there's no time, you just gotta come with me, come on. Why, what is this? What the? Are those? Come on! Come on! Oh. Wait. What is going on? Listen, I'm from the year...
Insert relatively distant but still foreseeable future date here.
And I have been sent back here to rescue you. What? Hey there, look out! Okay. I think we lost him. Look, I'm trying to do a review. Okay, now listen very carefully to me. In the year...
Relatively distant but still foreseeable future date.
The world has been taken over by an evil tyrant. How did you do that? And your son is going to be the one person to raise up against him and maybe save the world. Oh no, not quite ready for children yet. I need to protect you and I need to get you to a safe place, okay? So I need you to listen to every single thing I tell you to do. Oh man, a Pac-Man arcade machine! Sweet! Did y'all listen to any of that?
Who doesn't know Pac-Man? This little yellow guy, born of the game company Namco, is one of the most well-known video game characters of all time, and he started out here on the humble arcade machine.
Back in the day before Pac-Man, Namco were a toy company who specialised in making those little kiddie rides. You know, those rides that you get outside supermarkets. Who are you talking to?
Namco founder Masaya Nakamura decided to push the company more to the then established market of arcade games. The first arcade game Namco produced was GB, which was licensed to Gremlin Industries for the USA. While the game itself doesn't exactly jump from history, even with its 2 sequels, the young designer of the game, Toru Iwatani, who was only 23 when it was released, would be the guy who worked on Pac-Man shortly after. Development for the Pac-Man game started in 1979. Originally it was coined Pac-Man since the game was based on eating, and paku-paku in Japanese is onomatopoeic for closing and opening the mouth. Iwatani used to say that the shape was because it was like a pizza with a slice missing, but it turned out that it was really more from simplifying the Japanese character for a mouth.
Although in fairness to Iwatani, it's not like game characters back then were able to have that much detail.
The idea behind the cutesy ghosts was to appeal to women and younger children. Because of the way Pac-Man looked a bit like a hockey puck, he was called Puck-Man.
So, Pac-Man was put into arcade machines in Japan in 1980, and he wasn't quite as well received as you might have thought at first.
When Midway took over the licensing to start making arcade machines for the West, they changed the name Puck-Man to Pac-Man. The reason? Well, apparently it was to stop vandals from replacing the P on the arcade machines in Puck-Man with an F.
That isn't funny. Yes, it is funny.
More than 350,000 Pac-Man cabinets were sold within 18 months of the game's first release. In America, its popularity was crazy. By the year 1982, it was estimated that 7 billion coins had been used in the machines.
So, how come you're here? You're the character from the game, aren't you? But you're not quite as round as I was expecting. These games were sent back from my time to give you a clue of what would happen in the future. So constantly swallowing pills while running from the inevitability of death and having a piece of fruit maybe once a month when you think you should get your life in order. Well, that's just being an adult. Anyway, let's play this. Oh wow, impressive. Yeah, this is my lucky keyboard. I've programmed it to be able to play any arcade game and any console game ever. It's kind of convenient that you had that in there. Yeah, sometimes I get a bit lazy with these scripts. Now this is a very easy game to play, and even if you've never played it before, you're probably aware of how it works.
Each level is a maze where you need to pick up these little dots. The level ends when you've eaten all the pellets. While you're trying to do that, you need to avoid these 4 guys, the ghosts. Shadow, Speedy, Bashful, and Pokey, or Inky, Blinky, Pinky, and Clyde.
Pinky.
Even though they're all trying to catch Pac-Man, these ghosts were coded to be slightly different and behave in a different way. Like, the red one chases Pac-Man and the pink one tries to position itself in front of Pac-Man.
One of the things I've never been able to understand about this game is the nicknames of the ghosts. So they're nicknamed Inky, Blinky, Pinky, and Clyde. And who looks at a guy called Pokey and thinks, you know what would be really funny? If we gave him a nickname, Clyde.
In the original Japanese version, their names were Chaser, Ambusher, Fickle, and Feigned Ignorance. Their nicknames were usually Red Guy, Pink Guy, Blue Guy, and Slow Guy.
There is no way a guy named Feigned Ignorance is going to need a nickname.
Anyway, these same ghosts would appear in most other Pac-Man games.
Hey, is the red ghost the leader, or why does that matter? Well, it's always the one dressed in red, isn't it? Mario, Power Rangers, that weird cartoon about the talking cars that are also dogs. The past is weird. Ah! Come on, let's go! You come from a future where Pac-Man are just going around eating pills and running away from guys like this. Yeah, pretty much. Okay, and my son, who obviously I haven't had yet, is gonna fight them. Your son is gonna become one of the most valued members of the Resistance. Without him, so many humans are gonna be dead. This is why you need to— Ooh, an Atari 2600! Who was just leaving these consoles out on the street?
In 1982, after the massive success of the arcade version, a home console port was released for the Atari 2600. Programmer Todd Fryer had a challenge with this, as with such a small amount of memory to work with, he wasn't able to approach the quality of the arcade version. He was only given a couple of months to make it and finalise it. And with only 4KB ROM to play with, there wasn't much scope for anything other than the original gameplay mechanic.
The main issue was, of course, that the original arcade games were able to use maybe about 4 times as much ROM, and they also had an extra 2KB of general and video RAM. Well, it means that the Atari only had about a 16th of the general RAM that the arcade board had, and none of the video. And on top of that, the CPU that the Atari had was about 3 times slower than the one the arcade had. Wow, you're a total nerd, aren't you? Yes. Yes, I am. It's kind of cute. Okay.
So, there were a few things that Fry had to do to compromise. 1. Get rid of the rounded maze textures and turn the pellets into rectangles. This was so that the same texture could be used for the walls, pellets, and the corners. 2. The Pac-Man sprite is drawn in every frame, but the ghosts are drawn every other few frames. This makes them look like they flicker.
Oh, my eyes!
Oh god, that flickering is really bad. I don't know if it's because I'm playing it on a modern screen. The flickering got a pass by Atari back then because of the fade of CRT monitors back in the 80s, but I can't imagine it looked great even on them. Let's be honest, despite Fry's best efforts, this doesn't look great.
Why did they choose that gross brown-yellow shade for the walls? And why does Pac-Man look like a kind of dopey gecko's head?
At least the ghosts do kind of look like ghosts, even though sometimes they do kind of overlap on each other and you don't realise that you've eaten 2 of them. They also do the same eye thing when they're captured. The game cover shows an utterly adorable Pac-Man who looks like he's going for an ice cream sandwich.
Oh, I want to squish him.
The box art for the Atari 400 and 800 version really makes me laugh. What the hell is going on here? Pac-Man looks genuinely full of fear, and also, how come for some reason he looks more ridiculous in this iteration than when he's literally a head on legs? God, look at that red ghost, he doesn't have anything clean going through his mind right now. I'd get out of there if I were you, Pac-Man.
Also, the death animation really creeps me out, both on arcade and Atari.
Gosh, it's dark. I suppose it was more to do with the limitations of the animation, but there's something really creepy about the idea of a character turning itself inside out once it's been caught by a ghost. Imagine if other games had that animation.
Is that what the ghosts are trying to do to us? Turn us inside out? Okay, I need to take you to 2564 Shadow Street. That's where the portal's going to appear so I can go back and you can be safe. I can also pick up a power pellet on the way. That'll take care of those ghosts. I just need to work out where it is. Can't you just Google map it? Google? Who are they? You don't know what a Google is? Oh, those are the guys that got smited to the bottom of the ocean after they learned how to create life. Really? No, they make driverless cars. Oh. So, am I gonna go into the future with you, or... I don't know, I didn't really think that far ahead. All I have to do is make sure that you don't die. So, we need to kill the ghosts. Yeah. Okay, how are we gonna do that? I don't know yet. You know, you seem awfully unprepared for someone who's supposed to have come back here to save the world. Hey, why don't you distract yourself by playing with me? What? I don't mind. Can't we go on a date first? No, idiot. I mean the game. Look! Oh, I get it. Play with your game, not you. Okay, yeah, I can do that.
Ms Pacman was released on arcade in North America in 1981. As an improved version of Pac-Man, it would end up to be the most successful arcade game ever produced in America. Ms Pacman is, well, I think she's supposed to be Pac-Man's wife or something.
Is that right? Yeah, he's my husband, I think.
In the game, there were these adorable little cutscenes which showed the meeting of Pac-Man and Ms Pacman. They meet, sparks supposedly fly, and by the end they have a stork bring them a baby.
Ms Pacman started out as Ms Pacman, but because there were concerns about how well she might be received, given that she has a baby out of wedlock during the course of the game, she was changed at the very, very last minute from Ms Pacman to Mrs Pacman, and then finally Ms Pacman. It's ridiculous, isn't it? We didn't even have sex. The goddamn stork just came along and dropped the baby on me. There's no contraception for a stork, it turns out.
This was in the early 80s. It's grim that even as recently as then, a woman was still seen as being the property of a man. And also, she's not allowed to have sex before marriage, or she's considered to be a bad person. The fact that it extended to video game characters is just insane. I mean, how do these two spheres even have sex? Ms Pacman is a very similar game to Pac-Man as you probably expect, except the game has 4 mazes in different colours, 3 of the mazes have 2 sets of warp tunnels rather than 1, the walls are a solid colour, the ghosts move differently, and the fruits bounce about in the maze. There's also no Clyde in this one, instead there's a ghost called Sue. Ms Pacman started out as a better version enhancement of Pac-Man, which was being made by General Computer Corporation called Crazy Otto. GCC were making enhancement units for arcade machines. When Atari settled a lawsuit, GCC weren't allowed to sell any of their enhancement kits, and that included this Crazy Otto game.
It's difficult to find information about Crazy Otto, but from what I can gather, he was kind of a Pac-Man-like figure, but with these really long legs, and the things that were chasing him instead of being ghosts, they were these kind of bug things.
But because it had fixed a number of issues with the first game, Namco took Crazy Otto and turned him into a Pac-Man. Ms Pacman was released for the Atari 2600, Atari 5200, Atari 7800, and the Atari 8-bit computer line. Because there was more memory available now, it was able to make a much better game on home console than its predecessor. Look at the ghosts on the cover, they have got no idea what is going on. In this one, we're still eating wafers, and we don't have any rounded corners in the maze, but the sound effects are nice, and the ghosts are flickering much less, although they do still flicker a lot. It's kind of hard to keep track of where they are sometimes.
Well, I guess the next thing is for me to play with your son, right? Oh, how dare you! You think that's funny? You're disgusting! I meant the game! Oh, I'm sorry, I thought you meant... Jesus Christ, I mean, he's like 12! I'm sorry, I'm sorry. What the is wrong with you?
Junior Pac-Man is the kid of Pac-Man and Ms Pacman. Like his parents, he's a little yellow sphere, but what makes him super adorable is that he wears a little propeller hat. This time, the game is a much bigger level. As you play, the camera will move left to right to follow Junior. Instead of fruit to collect, this time it's mostly tricycles and kites and balloons. This time, the little cutscenes show a friendship growing between Pac-Man Jr. and one of the ghosts.
Yeah, we don't talk about that. But it's kind of cute. This was supposed to be Blinky's daughter, this red ghost. She's called Yum Yum. Do you think I'd want one of my sons running away with one of those disgusting ghost things after all they've tried to do to my family?
That's so sweet. They just want to be friends. Pac-Man Jr. takes her a balloon and they both run away together after Blinky chases away Ms Pacman.
Oh. Wait, aren't they small, unsupervised children?
Although this wasn't as popular as the other games, it would still get a port to the Atari 2600.
All those sound effects. So crunchy. You okay? Kiss me. That was too much, wasn't it?
Oh boy, this review is getting interesting, but it's just too long to show in just one part. So if you want to find out more about Pac-Man and see if I can possibly get any more blatant with the fan service, mosey along down to part 2.